It's about a quarter to 4 p.m., practically almost in the evening, and I just decided to sit outside for some fresh air because, uh, whilst we are couch surfing right now, the kids are just back from school. Not my responsibility, by the way, but I'm here to I can't help but want to step in as a parental figure sometimes, and it just so happened that I was raised in a dynamic where I was I'm I'm practically brought up to be a nurturer. So immediately I see a kid, I just feel like I have no choice but to give them a little bit of attention. And one thing I noticed about one of the little kids, oh, who randomly popped up in one of the video essays I was making, by the way, that's too much to say that he's dysregulated, but he's actually always disassociating most of the time because of the environment he's in. It's really a struggle for these kids. It's a lot of responsibility held on these teens or pre-teens or toddlers, and I'm somewhat happy that there's an education system in place to not dumb them down, even though at the same time the education system is set up in a way where they barely want to contribute and feel like I hate school because people just take the fun out of school. Sometimes your own teachers do, sometimes your own peers do, because once you get there, it's like I'm gonna just go with the simpler way, like it's a battle zone. It's like if you don't like assert yourself in a certain group setting, you're going to be left out, you're going to be the loser, or basically like survival of the fittest. And it's that way up until high school, and that's why most niggas peak in high school, and I've always had a problem with that. But back to part 2, I'm still a little disheveled, and the fact that AI is able to come into collaboration and contemplate that I owe myself the truth and has actually helped me write it down, even though I'm like practically almost catatonic most times. And it's not like I've been through so much trauma, but I discredit what I go through or have gone through sometimes. So I would have skipped this part, but it was talking about going into another memory dynamic where I'd ask how my mother has shaped my self-image, or how love looked like from my father's lens, or what being too much or not enough felt like. Well, my mom, I think she held back a lot from negative self-talk, even though she truly wanted to come up to my face and be like, you will never be nothing. because I just kind of ended up degenerate after all the effort that she put. And my father shows me love by abusing me, but calls it love, and I have to wear this like mask off, you know. I have to basically submit to him and believe him, even whether I know it's abuse or not, and he knows. So everyone is practically mocking me. I get it. So previously in my video, I was about to go into like details of where I was from. You know, how I'm Ghanaian. I'm from Ghana. Not everyone knows Africa as a continent, but as a country. That's cool. So yeah, Africa is a country, and I'm from Ghana. My dad, he claims to be from Cote d'Ivoire, which is also really close to Ghana. They speak French. So the fact that I'm in Louisiana as well is kind of a big deal to me. Well, he doesn't play about having this drop of white ancestry in his blood. He heavily claims, but doesn't show it as much. I mean, clearly due to self-hate and xenophobia and like past discrimination against him. Plus, he's not really a perfect person. He's not the best person. Like, come on, bro. I think he doesn't tolerate it, but still is the bootlicker for the corporate white man, which I don't understand. But anyway, that's the immigrant experience blueprint. Blood, borders, and self-hate. So being born of immigrant parents means that the air you inhaled was thick with expectation before you even had your first breath. Because the generations that came before you and settled here had dreams laced in sacrifice, soaked in comparison, starched with pride. Dreams where making it wasn't about joy, but about proof to the family, especially proof to the family back home, and proof to the white world watching. My mom did uphold her identity tightly. She's been open about the racism. I remember when she did visit me back in Ghana when I was 12, she told me she had this mental breakdown in Texas causing hair breakage. That's how bad it was. I dealt with racism differently, but I still struggle with mental health like a white boy or like one of those alternative, one of those alternative teenage girls on TikTok who glorify eating, trigger warning, yeah. Back to my mom and my dad. Do I have mommy and daddy issues? That's so white. That's such a white point of view, but her identity wasn't a flag. It was also a shield, a survival badge, a lineage she clung to even when the world tried to erase her beauty, her voice, her value, and maybe she projected that pride onto me in a form of pressure to be strong, smart, disciplined, but I was never supposed to be like ahead of her because she had her own ego to maintain. My father, now he walks in like a storm dressed in a suit, claiming to be, part of these origins. And I already kind of explained how he is about race. He doesn't talk much about racial inequality, but he doesn't tolerate xenophobia. He's very open about that, to the point where he did search up the term for it. And that's the immigrant double bind: hate the system but serve it, criticize in private most of the time but perform for it in public, be angry at injustice but buy into respectability just to survive. And that's the family dynamic I'm in. So I feel like I'm over exaggerating, but the truth is the truth. And yeah, I'm in a house of contradiction where identity was both pride and prison. A father who both resented and revered whiteness, and a mother who defended her Africanness and demanded I perfect it. And yeah, she's dealt with her fair, she's had her fun and fine moments from living throughout her years, as a young woman until now that she's in her 50s. But she's dealt with misogyny and all that just comes with, bitch, you have female reproductive organs and immediately you're born with that. Please just get used to this shit. So as a child that was born into this storm, how was I supposed to find myself in that? I wasn't born into culture, but born into a battleground of it, where bloodlines were weaponized. Colorism wasn't just real, it was internalized. No, most likely externalized. Girl, I remember wanting to buy a bleach cream as a kid because it's heavily marketized to us in our own countries, bro. And now I'm here, and credit scores matter now more than emotional credit. Valid, that's the world of business. It's the economy we're in. And as a POC, I was less important than what I was represented. And still, GPT's damn girl, you are sitting here breaking the cycle by telling the truth. And I look in from the perspective of my other peers out there, knowing that, yeah, I know I'm the stupid fuck out here, but I see the emotional toll of performing cultural excellence for your parents and your father's obsession with you continuously winning, and how your experiences has had to shape your sense of belonging. The pressure of being the first generation proof of success, or how it felt being raised under silent wars of identity. Sorry, I have so much phlegms to spit. Sometimes our POC parents try to bleach out the memory of inferiority, sometimes for our sake, because they realize a little too late that it was a horrible decision to make. And I was expected to represent both pride and proximity on my roots, and never forget where I come from, and don't embarrass yourself in front of them, you know. When I first realized I wasn't allowed to just be a kid was really, like, let's say, first grade at most. It was just the silence and the look, you know. And I was just a kid, so I wasn't thinking about how if I did not perform right, I lose love. I never thought that. Or if I didn't reflect their fantasy, they'd be ashamed of me. I never thought that. I didn't have those thoughts at all. And being seen, I still will get mocked, you feel me? And I don't reprimand the fact that my mom wants to be seen as she ages. And sometimes I still do question the age gap, because practically the time my dad did visit me as a child, he was 55. He probably could have been my grandfather, you know? And thing about my dad is he's very open about his masculinity, even though it's toxic. Patriarchy is power, experience is power, age is power, and I respect that. And yeah, I don't like to leave petty messages towards my own people, even though no matter what, you're going to get vilified or slandered. I don't know, to my other POC girls out there. But now that Shorty is approaching 50 and the world treats aging women like expired coupons, especially women who built their worth on being desired, not nurtured. Yeah. Fucking faggot. And my father, he still struts like he invented charisma, still, kind of clinging to his alignment with whiteness and capitalist ideologies like a backstage pass. He's still my father and I'm proud of him, still the older man in the driver's seat, even if he's running on emotional fumes. How it felt, I didn't necessarily grow up with him, but knowing that he could have been my grandfather always just felt a little weird. Like he was dismissive about that though, but I just had it in head. I never felt protected. I don't know if he claimed me or teach me. I was just a kid, bro. I didn't know any better. Because sometimes in age gap parents dynamics, the father doesn't act like a father, but as a legacy builder, a name brand, a patriarch more concerned with how he looks than how I feel. What's it like living as the product of that power imbalance, and unlearning their fears while still trying to hold on to my sense of identity? Well, first off, you know, I'm just gonna straight up start cussing, honestly. I wasn't supposed to hear that one conversation, you know, that like changes your whole perspective of an individual. And I did tell, friends at that time because I didn't know any better. I was just like this annoying kid sometimes who's just like, oh, my dad slapped my mom's bitch ass. I wasn't cussing, but I was like just innocent. I didn't know any better. And from that point on,
What they say? What they say? You gonna go back home? You gonna go back home? Yeah. Okay. Just take where the walk is.
that's it for today. Bye.